Hey, what's going on, guys? Familiar names in the chat already. We got HVAC blogger Steve is in the house. Richie, Jason Johnson, Alexander, Just Work HVAC, Jay. Got a lot of familiar faces. So, welcome to the Reliable HVACR live stream slash podcast. Now, if you can't stay for the whole show, you can watch it right after it airs on YouTube, or you can go on and listen on the go on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you listen to your podcast on all major platforms. So, today we have a special guest, another award winner. This is the Lady of the Trade award winner from the HVAC Tactical Award Show, none other than Brandi Ferenc, also known as Chiller Chick.
Hey
Hey, what's going
everyone.
on?
Hey, thanks for
How?
having me. This is awesome. By the way, what an
Yes.
intro. Like longest 2 minutes of my life, but that was killer.
Hey, I need time for people to come in so that we're not just talking, by ourselves. But yeah. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty great too.
Good, good.
So, if you just want to introduce yourself a little bit and tell everybody about your job and the kind of the part of the HVAC field that you're in.
Yeah, I think a lot of people know too much about me probably already, but most of my career, I jumped right into the deep end. I started with a big company working on chillers, and so I've been mostly commercial industrial for most of my career. Um, Ran that service life like a lot of us do for just over 13 years. And recently, a couple years ago, I took the retirement gig and I went in house at a local hospital. So yeah, it's been thrilling. Like I actually was a plumbing apprentice. A lot of people don't know that because I
Oh wow.
couldn't get signed up in for this trade where we have a different apprenticeship process here in Canada. So I took the first red seal that came along, which was plumbing, and I did construction. And I ended up competing at a skills competition. And I only found out a couple years ago. This is way back in the early 2000s. I was like the first female ever to compete.
Oh
And I
wow.
got a recruiter called me out of that. And lo and behold, I started my refrigeration apprenticeship. So yeah, it's been a wild ride, and I love our trade. And I got to say, joining Instagram not that long ago, and meeting this community that we have here, it's really kind of brought me back from the dead a little bit. I lost faith for a while in humanity, in a sense, HVAC humanity. But yeah, it's great being a part of the community. And in addition to doing all that at work, what I did fall into as well back in I think around 2015 I started teaching the trade, and I found that really, it was hard at first but rewarding at the same time, especially when you kind of can inspire people to really fall in love with our trade. And yeah, and also, as we talked about a little bit earlier there, Adrian, I'm also a mentor for HVAC apprentices and women in skilled trades. So I don't have a lot of free time, but
Yeah.
I'm all in, man. I love our world, and anything I can do to contribute to that.
Yeah, that's awesome. The whole training and helping other, females and just younger techs in general get in the trade. That's something great because it's not something that is offered to us. Like, at least when I was younger, nobody ever told me that we could get into HVAC or plumbing, electrician. Nobody ever mentions those trades. So I mean, I'm glad that more people are taking the initiative to kind of show the younger generation, and I appreciate that you do that too. um so you started right off the bat in industrial then?
Yeah, so it was a second career for me. So I was in my early 30s at the time, and which I think kind of helped a little bit. But yeah, there
Sure.
was definitely like for me, I didn't really know any different. I'll be honest with you. When I started in HVAC, I remember my dad, who's an electrician, saying to me, "Yeah, it'll be super easy trade. It's like you're gonna run like quarter-inch copper and bars and stuff like that." And yeah, next thing I know, I'm running around at nuclear plants and data centers, and I'm I'm looking at these like a water cooled centrifugal chiller for the first time, and it was like, I think actually early on, I mean, I did have, obviously we had light commercial contracts as well. So I mean, I seen rooftops and heat pumps and stuff like that. But I think we did a sidewinder teardown, and I think that was like the first time I opened up a chiller, and I was just like, this is crazy. Like I remember going to trade school in basic, and they're talking about, egg coils and condensers and split units and residentials. I went up to my instructor and I'm like, so when are we going to talk about chillers? And he was like, yeah, that's like when you're almost done your apprenticeship, Brandi. So
Yeah, so the apprenticeship up there is a little bit different, you said, right? So
yeah,
how was it going through that? Because like I just know here I went through trade school, so it was like a year and a half to 2 year program, and we got to go through. We had a class for each one, like commercial refrigeration, like a residential class, electricity class, and then I think I did take the option of taking the industrial class, even though we couldn't like do much. They would just show us the chiller there at the school and like here's what it looks like, here's what it kind of does, but you can't work on it. But what was your experience, going through that apprenticeship?
yeah, apprenticeships it's a funny animal, and that's kind of one of the important things we try to explain. It's like kind of like this best kept secret. Out of high school in here in Canada, I say there's three equal options post secondary. So you can go to university, you can go to college, or you can take the apprenticeship pathway. So for us, about 70% of your learning is hands-on in the field, and 30% is in school. So for
Yeah.
example, I have a 313A refrigeration mechanics license. Air conditioning systems refrigeration, it's a long title. So that's about 9,800 hours we put in for that. And it takes just under 5 years normally. So you'll kind of work in the field for a year or two. And the basis is you don't need any experience to get in,
Oh,
which
okay.
there's like some truth to that. And what happens is, as a first year apprentice, when you're officially signed up as an apprentice, you make 40% of a journey person's wage. And
Okay.
then it takes around, 10 months to a year, depending on how much you work. Every 1,800 hours, you level up. And every time you level up, you get a raise accordingly. So second year apprentice makes 50% of a journey person's wage, and so on. And then during that process, depending on the trade, you'll go to trade school, you'll get a notification, and you'll head off to school for 8-week blocks. So you get laid off from your company. And then usually we go in the winter, so it's kind of nice because you stay warm for a little bit. And yeah, you'll head off to school for 8 full weeks, and we do 3 different levels. So yeah, your basic level, intermediate, and advanced, and they kind of break up our learning that way. So kind of like what you were talking about, we'll do like, basic air conditioning, refrig theory. We'll do an electrical class. We do some like welding and brazing and all that good stuff. So, and then when school's over, you head back out into the field again. You get a little more experience, and then you go back to school again.
Nice.
Yeah,
So you went through all that, and then you said you went to industrial. It
yeah,
So is that your are you do you love that industrial side of things? Like I can't imagine, because like I said, I do like commercial, and
yeah,
I'm very happy where I'm at. But I love watching other people work on like industrial stuff,
yeah.
supermarkets and all that, that big stuff.
Yeah, I think like for me, I've done a little residential just like for friends and family, and I don't know, man. I struggle with it. I like to think I'm a people person. I liked working on job sites with like a lot of different tradespeople, but there's something to be said when it's just like you against machine in a mechanical room.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I like the big stuff. What can I say? And to some degrees, I find the big stuff was easier to work on in a sense, right? Like,
Yeah.
obviously, there's a lot of heavy lifting involved, but for that, we do a lot of rigging, and we use gantries and chain falls and all those great things, right? But I don't know. There's just something to be said for it, and I think maybe it's just that's kind of what I was born into, and when I started in the trade, so that's what I'm comfortable with. But I mean, even just like last weekend, I was working at the in-laws' house, and as we were leaving, we were just putting in an exhaust fan. But as we were leaving, their furnace went down, so I had to go back and look at the furnace. And I was like, all
Yeah.
right, okay, back to the little stuff, Brandi. So it was kind of funny. Yeah,
Back to the basics.
yeah, back. Yeah, back to the basics. And I'm like, it's such the sometimes the components are so inaccessible, right? I'm always
Yeah.
worried about breaking something.
Yeah, you'll make it worse. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, I'm kind of the same way. Like even though I see, smaller or lighter commercial units, I still prefer that way more over residential, and that's just me. And like I do feel like they are easier to work on or repair, for that matter. So I understand. We do have some guys that work on chillers in the chat. We got Jason,
Yeah,
uh,
I see that.
Jason Johnson. He's a big industrial guy too. He's always working on like chillers, and he's always in the chat talking about it. Like I said, I love that stuff. I love watching that stuff and all that. I don't think I would ever get into it. I'm very happy with where I'm at.
Yeah, there's a comfort level too, like I think you never can know everything. And I think we all kind of gravitate to like where what we enjoy doing and what we're comfortable with. And, at the end of the
Uh,
day, I do love though, like there's so much evolution with our equipment and
Yes,
technology. Like the trade is just it's changed so much in the last decade, which is it's pretty cool to see.
and that's a great thing, right? Is you have different avenues that you can take if you get into HVAC. There's like so many different levels to it. There's different size equipment. There's different just different paths that you can take. You don't have to
Mhm.
do residential. You don't have to do install. You don't have to be bound to like one thing. There's so many different something should pique your interest in this trade, to say the least.
Yeah.
So, like you said, outside of your job, because you do work at a hospital, um, what like you probably have a lot on your plate right now. So can you take us through the other things that you do as far as like training and teaching, and what you offer, for anybody that's listening that might be interested?
Yeah, so well, I'm an instructor for the gas fitter program right now at Georgian College. So that's here in Ontario. So basically, depending on the semester, we're just going to wrap up a semester now. So I'll get a little 2 week break. But every semester, my schedule changes. So I work my normal Monday to Friday, and then I'll have anywhere from could be 1 to 2 nights a week, maybe Saturdays. I'll go teach. So I can
Oh,
maybe leave the hospital at say 4 o'clock, and then I have about an hour drive to the college. Then I teach for right now. I'm teaching for 4 hours on Thursday nights. So
oh, okay.
I teach till 10. And
Wow.
I think that it's awesome. Like just the past couple years, I've landed, like I've been in classes where I've got my first couple female students, which is nice. And I'm the only female instructor in the program. But I think I like more, everyone always says, well, I must make an impact for the women, but I think it's more impactful for the guys in my class because they've kind of, I'm usually with them for about a year. So
Hmm.
over the course of that year, obviously we get to know each other, and I think it's cool that they have this comfort level, and now when they go out into the field, it's not quite as shocking for them if there's a female on a job site or another woman at the company. So and it's rewarding, you know what I mean. Sometimes I've had their moms have sent me like an email or a text message, which is pretty crazy, and they'll thank me for they're inspiring their child, their son, to pursue HVAC. We just had the CMPX show, was not that long ago, last year, and I had a whole bunch of students roll up because I was at the CMPX show in Toronto, and that's pretty cool. So I think it's important, like once you reach a certain level, I learn as much from them, I think, as they do from me. And it sounds cheesy, but when you have to teach your trade, it's different than having an apprentice. And it's kind of cool to, I got to figure out how to explain the same thing, but to like 40 different personalities, right?
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty rewarding. And then on top of that, I mentor apprentices in the trade and women in skilled trades. So yeah, I would say I went to the hospital to kind of slow down a bit, and all I really did was I ramped up, like full
It
on.
sounds like it. It sounds like you have a lot going on there, but it's all good, helpful to other people. And if you can, pass on knowledge and get more people interested, I think that's great. That's also the whole HVAC tactical movement that happened. I think a lot of people are more inspired this year, especially to kind of share the wealth and get everybody involved.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to pass it on, man. So you got to pay that forward, right, for the next generation.
Oh yeah, we don't want to be working like until we're
No.
till we're 90 or something. We want to pass it on and retire.
Yeah, yeah, move on to better things, right?
Yeah. So I had some questions from HVAC J over on Instagram. He wants to know, do you enjoy teaching more than turning wrenches?
Yeah, that's a tough one. You know what? I'm not ready to give up my wrenches yet. So I would say my first love is still being on the tools, and it's kind of been tough for me, as everyone knows, because I've had some issues at my place of work. So I've been off for a few weeks now while they're dealing with that. And even just this past weekend, getting to go work at the in-laws, like I just had to get my hands on some tools. So I would say like I really was surprised how much I do enjoy teaching. I mean, if in all full disclosure, when I first started teaching, it was the money was too good to pass up, but I genuinely like I fell in love with it. So I think that's something I've learned probably the hard way over the years too. Like I hung on in the service van, I think a little bit too long because it's hard. It's a great paycheck, right? Nobody can deny that. And when you go
No.
in house, at least in Canada, we take a pretty big pay cut. But personally, I think I'm kind of split 50-50. I love still being on the tools because it's so rewarding when you get to fix something that was broken. And either for myself now at the hospital, like I'm providing, it could be a critical piece of equipment that we're dependent on in order to provide, patients either that are kind of having surgery, or it could be
Mhm.
for some of our important equipment like MRI machines or things like that. But at the same time, that's really rewarding. But I'm also at the point now instructing where it's almost equally as rewarding because
Yeah.
I don't get that love every day, but when I do, it hits home, man. It really hits home.
Oh, I can imagine. But that's a good problem to have. You can't decide, but you love doing both. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm lucky I have the opportunity to do both now for right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm the same way. Like I even when we had the whole lockdown, a few years ago, and we had to, stop working. We only stopped working for a few days or like a week, and then they got us back because we do like kitchen refrigeration and restaurants, and we do hospitals as well. So they wanted us back right away. But like in that week or 2 weeks, I was like going crazy. I was like, I want to work. I want to work. I want to do something. Um, and that's when I saw that I really, missed it and I love doing this. So
Yeah.
uh, it hits you sometimes. HVAC J also wanted to know, when did you decide to get or to pursue teaching, and how did you start, or how did you get started in that?
Yeah. So I didn't really decide one day. We wasn't out looking for a job, but somebody kind of told me, hey, there's this school that posted, they're looking for an instructor. And at the time I kind of thought, this is going back almost 10 years. And I was like, I don't know enough to teach. That's kind of like where I was in my head, because thinking about my instructors at trade school, like they were like HVAC gods, right? You're like, oh my
Yeah.
God, like how do they know so much? But it's interesting because when I went in for the interview and that, they base it here, at least in Canada, on your years served, right? So it's based on experience. And I had to put together like a lesson plan basically and kind of mock teach my boss for about 20 minutes or so. It was an electrical class I had to teach. And it was, I don't know, there's also that, I guess it's like rolling up to a service call when you don't know what's wrong and you're kind of under the gun. There's a little bit of the thrill of the chase, right? So when I
Yeah.
kind of got up to start teaching, I kind of had that same excitement. I was like, yeah, this is actually, it's pretty cool. And I kind of got started. It was just as simple as that. Like there was an ad, I applied, I went for an interview, I got the job. Unfortunately, I didn't teach consistently because in our line of work up here, like being on call, the schedule is all over the place, and
Yeah.
the only thing about teaching is you can't just not show up or call in sick because there's nobody else to take your place, right? So Yeah, so I kind of was intermittent for quite a few years, and except the past few years I've been at the hospital, I was able to go back now and consistently teach every semester. So, but that's and when I went to, I've taught at a couple different facilities, and the college I'm at now is definitely my favorite place to be. I think again, a lot of us look to that community. So I'm with an awesome team. They're all really supportive. I mean, let's face it, we're mechanics, and I couldn't put a PowerPoint together to save my life when we had to teach during lockdown. But we all rallied together, and we used Google a lot, and we figured out how to put these online presentations together because you couldn't be in the classroom. And yeah, so since I started the first couple times, I've just really, I guess it's kind of like being in the trade, right? Right? You kind of, you figure out what you did wrong and you do better the next time, right? So there is definitely a learning curve, I think, like with any profession, whatever you're doing.
Awesome. So I have some questions about, being a woman in the trade. So basically, what is it like for you being a woman in the trade? I've had questions that want to know, is it hard to get respect, or does it take a while? Um, things like that.
Yeah, it's such a loaded question.
I know.
It almost goes like, yeah, just what's it like to be a woman, period. But, I think when I first got into the trades, there was no social media. So I thought it was early 2000s, and I was naive, and I just thought there was going to be tons of women that did this, right? Like, why wouldn't there be? So, yeah, it's hard. I will, like, short answer is I wouldn't swear, but yeah, it's effing hard, man. Like, it's hard. And I think the worst part is, and it's been hard for me, I've got so many stories that have come through in the past few weeks, and we all have a similar story. So it's like, you think once I'm done my apprenticeship and I'm a licensed journey person, it's going to be easier, right? And it actually
Mhm.
gets worse. And it's hard to take. And then you're kind of like, okay, well, I survived all of this only to find out that that wasn't the worst part. So I think even though, the bad experiences definitely don't outweigh the good, but and the bad are like, they're dark for a lot of us. And I can't say we can't all have the same experience,
Sure.
because it depends what environment you're working for. Maybe you had friends or family that were there, so you've got a bit of a buffer, right? But I mean, in general, if you're someone as a female or a minority that got into the trade just all by yourself, for lack of a better word, it can be a very uphill battle, that's for sure. And I speak on behalf of everyone that, because it isn't just isolated to women,
Mhm.
which I think, although from my standpoint, I'm taking it as a woman, I have to, right? But I mean, even only going back a couple of years ago, I remember an incident on a job site with a male coworker, and like somebody had drawn on the lift and all that. There was all these like lynching symbols, and they actually hung a noose from this one spot where he was working. And I
Oh, wow.
mean, like to think that that's like was happening, that was just insane, right? Like they shut down the job site, and all of these things, all these events happened after that. But there was a lot leading up to that where you could see the animosity on the job site, and it was building up, and there wasn't really anything. Everyone will kind of contribute it to like, oh, it's just everyone's just shit talking. But at what point do we say like this is okay and that's not okay, right? But when you're actually putting someone's personal safety at risk, like our job is dangerous enough. Like a
Mhm.
lot of us are working on live equipment. We're troubleshooting. I mean, if I'm sure if we're all in the same boat, right? How many of us have been out at 3, 4 a.m.? You haven't slept. You've been driving
Yeah.
hours to get to the job site. Now you're going to troubleshoot alone on a live piece of equipment so you can find out what's going on. You don't need to add on top of that just some pure hatred, for just the body you were born into or the color of your skin. It's crazy, right? So I think that's where I feel like for a long time, I really wanted to be an advocate for women to be a part of the skilled trades.
Mhm.
Now I think there are a lot more women now to kind of take up those reins. I think I'm
Mhm.
ready to move on to something better or not better, but bigger. I think it's time for an evolution for the trade. I think we need to evolve basically, and not all of us personally, but the industry itself.
Sure. And like you said, that we're out there working at all hours of the night. Like you said, live equipment, dangerous equipment, and that all goes back to your mental state too. If you have people that bully you, for lack of better words, at work, harass you, or anything like that, it's not good for everybody. And I believe, just like you should be worried about your physical state, mental state is just as important, and it can mess with you um, greatly at work, in the line of work that we do.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's important.
Um, so, okay, I'm reading through the questions. There was another one that asked, but I think you kind of went over it, the fears and obstacles of things that you face in the HVAC field. Now, do you, like you said, you would advocate for it, but now you want to talk probably more about pros and cons about work, right? So, do you
Yeah.
want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think you want me to touch on this in general, or is this like a gender question as a female?
Well, the questions I'm getting are pertaining to females, but have
Okay.
you've had male uh, guys come to you telling you
Yeah.
things too, right?
Yeah, so and I guess that's another part of it. As a mentor now, like I speak to young apprentices, and and some not so young, because I always say, like, I got into the skilled trades as a second career, and I think it's a great option regardless of your age. However, it's tough to hear, like, someone who's in their early 20s when you really don't know anything getting into the trade. And as I explained, in Canada, that's part of the apprenticeship process is, they get to take you as this raw piece of material and mold you, right?
Yeah.
So when you've got a person that's like, tearing you down on the job site, I think that we have to kind of change our perspective on that. I get the old school mentality. Like, I worked for journey people that, they throw tools at you and you get sworn at all day. But again, like, I don't think what worked 20 years ago is still the same today, right? I think that that's part of, we grow, we get better, we evolve, right? And we learn to do things better. I don't think that's really the proper way to motivate someone. So, hearing a young person say he wants to leave the trade because, of what happened on with his journey person, it just breaks my heart. I think finding your fit is important. Like you said, there's lots of different equipment to work on. If you don't like residential or industrial, maybe you prefer to work on refrigeration and racks. And to that point, same thing is, if you're not a good fit at one company, hopefully you're a better fit somewhere else. But it only takes, unfortunately, a couple bad ones that'll ruin all of it for it, right? Like, I've had a lot of guys go to bat for me, even though I've never brought anything to the table. I've had a lot of good journey persons that have, like, tried to stand up for me, but
Hmm.
I already know the repercussions of that, right? Like, if anyone goes and complains to management or something, it's my ass on the line at the end of the day, right? Because I already know the way the system is set up here, and maybe a lot of other places too. No one is getting in trouble for anything, but I'm going to be the one that's going to have no job, or I'm going to get starved out of work, or that reputation is going to follow me,
Hmm.
as our reputations do. Like, long before social media, I remember working on other job sites and someone be like, oh yeah, I know you, like, I heard of you. And it's like, oh, so and so said you're a hard worker. Well, that hard worker could just as easily be changed into, oh, I heard you're a problem, right? Or I
Yeah.
have to watch myself around you. So, and I mean, as all of you know, like, I mean, I don't really think you could meet someone that's more suited to be, quote unquote, one of the guys, And I think that's a little bit to our detriment. I think a lot of women, like, we work so hard to try to fit in, but we're not really meant to fit in that way. I just want to be a good mechanic. I shouldn't
Hmm.
have to worry about trying to be one of the guys. I just want to be a mechanic. That's all I want it to be.
Yeah.
Right. And I think there's a lot of barriers and there's a lot of problems. I know there's been some lashback, like, oh, like, I work with women, they can't lift this or that. But again, that's not gender specific. I know a lot of guys that can't lift what I lift either, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So I think it's a team mentality, right? But again, I think that is some of the fear. Unfortunately, like we talked about working on live voltage in the middle of the night in a mechanical room. Well, now let's add to that fact that you're a female by yourself. Maybe you're going to a job site where there's people there that maybe know you're going there and you're not really their favorite person. Now all of a sudden you've put yourself in danger too because you're open to be some kind of a target in some way, right? So it's just like on top of the job, which is already hard, if you've got to carry that, that fear and that mental weight of having somebody's boot on your throat, it just adds this whole other dimension that most people can't really imagine how hard it is then to think straight and to actually, successfully serve your customers the way that you should and fix their equipment.
Yeah, that's tough. Jason here, I'd imagine a woman in the trades would have to have some seriously thick skin to make it in a male dominated trade. That takes serious courage.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. And what's funny about that is, well, I guess not funny, but I tried to get into trades in my late 20s. That was my first kick at the can. And I kind of, a while back, I commented on this. Like, I had interview questions like, well, are you here to find a husband? I already have someone to get me a beer. So what could you possibly be good for?
Oh, wow.
And one of my, like, I feel you'd be a distraction to my male coworkers. And, and so in my early 20s, I was like, I had about 6 or 7 interviews and I was like, all right, this is crazy. And I just was like, forget it. But there's like this little fire that got lit, right? Because I think that's just my personality. And then a few weeks went by and I got mad about it, right? And I was like, what the hell? Like, this makes no sense to me. Like, did I go back in time? Like, are we in like the 1930s? So I don't think I could have. I think in some ways I've got that weird, I think everything for a reason. I don't think I could have handled it at that point in my life. But, lo and behold, like it took 4 or 5 more years before I finally was able to get in. But I think that now, like looking back, like I think to myself, that's why it was mostly women that were taking it as a second career. Because number one, what would a 19 or a 20-year-old young woman do in some of those situations that I was put in, in the early days? Yeah. So like to say you have my skin is like, it's so thick, it's bulletproof at this point, but I'm still a person. And, I think this most recent incident for me, it really brought a lot back that I think I buried and locked away. And you just keep kind of saying like, oh, it's okay. That's not a big deal, but it is a big deal. And it isn't right. And I really feel that there's more women now and there's more visibility. And so I think for some of the more veterans, the female veterans out there like myself, we got to get loud about it. And I used to fear my reputation or losing my job. And now I just don't give a shit because in good conscience, I can't advocate for young women. I go and talk to high school girls, right? Grades 11 and 12 about career opportunities in the trades. Meanwhile, it's like leading the lambs to slaughter. Like I couldn't do that,
Yeah.
I have a 12-year-old stepdaughter, and I think to myself, I would just want to go and murder someone if anyone even thought about doing some of the stuff to her that's been done to me. Right. So for me, my perspective, this last incident really changed my point of view because I had to draw the line. So that's what ended up happening.
Yeah, I get you. And, I have a stepdaughter too, and she's very young right now. She she doesn't know what she wants to be when she grows up, but she likes to go into my van. She likes to play with the tools. She wants to know what I'm doing. She's very like into that more so than my son, funny enough. And I don't know, like I would love, to show her some stuff, but being a woman in the trade, I feel like it's a whole other animal. So I'm
Yeah.
glad I'm glad that you're bringing it up, through social media or however you're able to do that and get a voice out there because um, that the stuff that you went through is crazy. Even the trying to get into the trade, them or that obstacle that you have to face is crazy to me because honestly, we've always needed more techs. It shouldn't matter if it's male or female. As long as they can do the job, they can be trained. We do need more techs, regardless of gender.
Yeah, it's such there's such a shortage, and it's crazy to think that we're not looking to the other 50% of the population. Like, I wasn't suited for an office job, and there's a lot of guys that aren't suited to go work in the field. I think it's just like about the
Yeah.
best human for the job, right? Like, if you're inspired working with your hands and you're more of a visual learner and you like that, that constant change that we get every day, then it's a no-brainer. I don't think it matters, like, what's underneath. Like I said, I always just say I'm a mechanic. I'm not a female HVAC mechanic. I am an HVAC mechanic. So, and we need more people, and that's the bottom line. And to your point, Adrian, it's crazy because my dad was really not supportive when I got into the trades, and I couldn't figure out why until I took a pre-apprentice program to try to get something on the resume. And it wasn't until I got into the field after that program. And, it hit me because what father would ever want to see their daughter go through what I've been through even now? So, and I think that's one of the ways to look at it. Like, I mean, we're all people first and foremost, but if you have to put it in perspective, right? I'm sure everyone out there has got a friend. If you don't have your own daughter, someone who does, and
Mhm.
like, just think about that. Like, what would you do if, like I said, I already know in my heart, there'd be no holds barred if someone ever hurt the young lady that's under my roof, like,
Oh, I know. I know.
so
I feel you on that one because, like I said, the she's only my stepdaughter, but like she's very interested in the tools and the work that I do. But in the back of my head, I'm like, I don't know if I want to like get you into it. I don't know if you should be interested in this. And
yeah. But you see,
hopefully,
we can
hopefully
make
it
changes and
changes.
it'll get
Yes,
better, man.
hopefully it changes.
It
Really
will
hoping on that
change.
one.
It will change.
Here we have Just Work HVAC. We are very lucky to have you in the community, Brandy. You are
Thank
teaching us here in the community, and we are not in your class. We are all family.
Oh, thank you.
Those are that's what's great about this whole community. Like I'm on YouTube, I'm on Instagram, I even tried TikTok. Nowadays, everybody's super supportive. I've seen a lot of women in the trade starting up, social media accounts for their HVAC work and knocking it out of the park. Showing their the skills that they have, and they're doing it better than some of the techs that I know around here. So it's all good.
Yeah, and the thing too, I love like how technical our tools are getting, and I really find, like, it sounds sad to say, like, we do a lot of slugging. Like, let's not, those 1,000 pound recovery tanks don't move themselves unless you got the good ones on wheels. But like, our job is, I really do want to say it's more mental a lot of times.
Oh yeah.
And in fact, if we're slugging like, tools or materials, that's just when you get a little downtime, you get a little free exercise. But I mean, mentally, it's a really tough job. And, I think that speaks volumes to just us as an industry, right? The physicality of it, we can mitigate that with tools and aids, right?
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
not that it's suited for everyone, but I'm just saying, like, at the end of the day, you got to be smart. So again, that's not based on gender. It's just based on the person, right? If your mind works in that mechanical way.
Yeah, there's there's heavy lifting and different things involved, but like you said, we have basically tools for everything now.
Yeah.
It's all what you can retain. You getting trained, properly trained, and like we shouldn't be turning away people or making people get out of the trade because they weren't treated with at least respect or anything like that, because then we're causing the shortage. We don't
Yeah.
have enough techs, because we're kicking them out. So like I said, I hope that changes. And you know I have a lot of people that are in the chat and that have messaged me, commented on stuff even before, I started this kind of podcast stream, that were asking me about, where are the women in the trades? We want to see more, and there's a lot of people that are for it, and I'm glad that it's kind of changing.
Yeah, it is changing. I'll say that. Albeit slowly. I think one of the things we see here, that is partly due to the environment and the culture. We don't have the retention, right? A lot of women dip their toes in the water, but I mean, there isn't a lot that get too many years under their belt before, a lot of women will get licensed and then they'll move on to something else. And unfortunately, that's sad, right? Because it's not until you get licensed that's when the real good stuff starts, right? We always say here, like, it's like 5 years after you get your ticket. But once you're licensed here, it's like that's when the real learning begins. And it's all part of that journey. So to see somebody leave the industry just because, of how they're being treated, and I don't blame them. I think to myself, I don't know, sometimes, yeah, maybe I'm just I'm a little too stubborn, but why would you put up with it? You don't have to put up with it, right? There's lots of work out there. So why put yourself through something that's, it's affecting your mental health and, possibly your physical health, depending on how you're dealing with those mental issues, right? Sure. For a lot of years, I didn't even realize how badly it affected me. I quit drinking a couple of years ago, and I was like surprised at how hard it was because I didn't think I drank that much. And I was like, oh shit, I guess I drank more than I thought. But again, right, it's all how you cope with it. So,
Sure.
We really need to, I think it's great to see so much support. And I think that that's a really good sign that, I think we're ready for the evolution. I think this industry's ready to like bring that culture up into 2023 and move ourselves out of the dark ages.
That's good to hear. And like I said, I've been happy, seeing more females on social media posting about work, showing that they're just as good as any male tech out there, and it's great to see. I had another question: was what do you think we need to do to attract more female technicians?
Yeah, one thing I really want to work on is I want to start working with, employers on how to integrate women properly onto their male-dominated team.
Yes.
I would describe myself like every time I've joined a new team, I'm kind of like a grenade that someone just pulled the pin and threw in, and they're like, "Let's see what happens," right?
Mm-hmm.
And I always have said, like, there's like this breaking in period I have for a new team, right? Everyone kind of tiptoes around until I drop like the first F bomb, and then maybe they relax a little bit, right? But I think we can do better. Like, number one, there's uniforms for women now. I think employers a lot of times, like, even, I hate to say it, but I went to the hospital and I was back to wearing a guy's uniform for like almost 2 months until my uniform came in. Like, the shirt was like, it went down to my knees. All that's like tucked in my pants, right?
Oh.
So I mean, like let's be real, right? Like, let's do, there's a better way to do it. And also, like, having that open dialogue with your team to say, listen, like, we're bringing a female on. She's not getting hired for the diversity card. She's qualified. She's ready to work. And, do you guys have any concerns about it? I think, honestly, there's like a better way. And that's something I've been thinking about a lot. And I've almost been using like everything I've either done wrong myself or that's been done to me. There's always an opposite to that, right? So I think, how can we do this better? And I think that's one thing where we can start for changing is it's got to start at the top, and we got to work our way down. So you know what? If management is supportive and the team is prepared, I think that then when you bring a female onto your team, she's much more likely to want to stay. And also, you're setting her up for success. Like, it's hard to learn and be the new person anyway, let alone if you're like that one odd duck out, right, that everyone's staring at. So I think there's a better way, and that's something I'd really like to start working on because I've been thinking about this a lot the past month.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good way to go about things is like with anything, people are not used to maybe working with other women at their workplace. It's not super common everywhere.
No.
Why not make it like prep them for it, train them for it,
Yeah.
and make them aware, and lay that out for them instead of just, like you said, throwing a grenade in there and seeing what happens. That's a
Yeah.
good point.
Yeah, there's a better way. Some companies use the term onboarding, and I think that there's a better way to like onboard a female into the company. And you know what? It's for everyone's sake. Maybe not even a female, just a minority in any sense, right? Because I'm not alone out there, and like I said, this happens a lot more than just to women. And
Hmm.
as well, I think that as journey persons, not everyone understands how to bring up that next generation, right, of mechanic or tech. And I think that there's some protocol that we could do better there too. Not just kind of setting everybody loose to do with whatever they want. I think there's ways that we could help people learn that, proper ways. If you're going to be given somebody that's a young apprentice under your wing, maybe they could use a little bit of coaching as well to help them. So
All good points. And I love that. So hopefully, that gets um, out to everybody else, as far as like you said, it starts at the top. I hope more businesses, look at stuff like that and kind of take that into consideration, incorporate that. That would be a great way to do that. I don't think I've seen any women in the trade around my area, but I'm hoping that changes. We see more of them, out there. Jason, if you are scared of change, you will watch life pass you by. True words.
yeah, so true, man. So true. Change is hard, but the reward is worth it in the end. I don't think I've been comfortable for the past 20 years, and it just keeps getting better. So yeah, as soon as I feel myself settling in, it's time to do something, move on to the next. So
Oh, that's great. Um, did you want to discuss anything about what you've been through, or you want to leave that just a general topic?
you mean like recently?
Yeah. I don't know if you wanted to talk about that in the live
Yeah.
or not.
Well, unfortunately, I can comment a little bit on it. There is an ongoing investigation.
Yeah.
As I said, I haven't been at work for the past few weeks, and if I'm being full disclosure, I'm probably the last one to know anything at this point after the incident. But unfortunately, this started for me back in August in 2022, believe it or not. And it is someone that does work in my department. So it's someone that's part of my team. So
Okay.
they were getting extremely upset for some reason about the things that I do outside of work. So teaching and mentoring. And obviously, my social media is public, right?
Hmm.
So there was some discontent going on, and this was being vocalized in a way that was inappropriate in the workplace. So not myself, but actually, after it had been going on for a while, some coworkers brought it to management's attention. So I was assured that it had been put to rest, and this is kind of early September now. And it was a big end of 2022 for me. So I won Canada's Most Powerful Woman Top 100 Award in the Skilled Trades category in
Oh,
November.
wow. Nice.
And I had some time off, which was also a problem, I guess. So we have a certain amount of vacation allotted, which I take as I should. But apparently, this person had some issues with my schedule. And then, although I thought everything had been taken, kind of put to bed, most recently it kind of spilled into outside of work. So, where I live, some incidents of, me being followed outside of work. And it turns out that I don't think anything did change since August, just the person got a little quieter for a little while. But it escalated to the point recently where, I had to file a police report and put some distance between myself and this person. So, and
Gotcha.
it's really disheartening because, at the same time, this causes a lot of upheaval. I like for my team, for my
Mm.
managers. part of me like feels really guilty in the sense of, this is that little bit of that stigma. Oh, this is why we don't hire women, because look what's happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I don't think you're going to be able to end like harassment in the sense as individuals become hyper focused on me and not in a good way. But I think what I do appreciate from the management standpoint is that it's the way they respond now. So, the way anything was dealt with, it wasn't dealt with. Like, I remember having an incident at the nuclear plant, and it was dealt with in the parking lot with a manager and myself because nobody wanted anyone to know about it, right? Like, it was very back alley. It was like, hey, we just don't want to tell anyone. Shh. And, and now I think what I appreciate is that management, they want to, set the precedence that this is unacceptable. And they want to recognize the fact that this is one individual's actions and this does not reflect on the facility. And they're going above and beyond to ensure that, everything has been dealt with appropriately and the people involved are accountable. So, I think that for me, it's kind of, I feel like it's put me on a different path for a lot of things. So maybe I just happen to be the right person for the job. And, they say they don't give you more than what you can handle. So I guess I can handle it. But I really feel like it's hard to come back from something like this. So I guess the day I posted the video where I was kind of emotional, I just got out of a meeting with HR and the union and everybody else. And you know what? I just was like, screw this. Like, this is just, it's such BS. And I spent a lifetime in the trades not saying anything, right? And it was my coworkers that brought this to management's attention. And it was time just to like, I had to just say something about it. So unfortunately, even for my family, like there was comments made about like my parents don't live in the same city as me. This individual brought up my family. My parents live in another city. I mean,
wow.
Now you're talking about now you're not just coming at me, right? So, and it's really like my whole life has been turned upside down for like the past month. And and I do try to stay positive because that's part of my personality. But don't for one second think that, it isn't a game to me. And, there's a lot of, it's affected me in an, unfortunately, a dark way. So, but I do appreciate, I appreciate the love. And even for those that may not agree with some of the things I have to say, I appreciate their viewpoint as well. Right. So.
Yeah. You've had a lot of support from what I've seen on Instagram. A lot of people here in the chat have said they supported you. And that was going to be my other question was like, how are they handling it on, as far as management and stuff. So it seems that they've been pretty, straightforward and supportive and not taking, the side of the, the one who did that to you. So
Yeah.
that's
No,
good.
and I do. Like, I mean, it's kind of weird hearing someone say like they're going to put security measures in place for when I come back to work. And I think to myself, that's just so not what work should be about, right? Like, I just want to go to work and fix stuff. Like, that's all I want to do, right? And
Yeah.
unfortunately, it's I don't know. We'll see what happens anyway. And obviously, I'll update everyone as it does unfold. But
Yeah. We'll be waiting. But yeah, and that's the other thing, right? The fear of being, as far as being a woman, the fear of being the cause of those issues, so to speak, or being blamed for that when it's not really at your fault. It's the other person that's doing these actions or these things, whatever it may be. So I'm glad that they're taking the steps or the initiative to kind of get through this and be on top of it. So that's good to hear. Let me see.
I love the comments. You guys are awesome, by the way.
Yeah, we have some great people here in the chat just showing their support. So I usually have some questions that are just general questions for my live streams. What do you do to stay sane? This could be like, I don't know, because I know you're going through a lot right now. I don't know if there's any hobbies or things that you do to keep your mind off of this stuff.
Yeah, I'm waiting for my sanity to open up. I got a little sanctuary up on the lake that's off the grid, so I'm
Oh
waiting for
yeah.
the ice is starting to break up, so I only have it's either water or ice access, so I'm waiting for the ice to go out here so I can get to my sanctuary. But I'm lucky. I've got an amazing. My fiance is fantastic, and we're actually doing a lot of work together lately since I haven't been at the hospital. So I
Yeah.
think maybe for you guys too, like work is cathartic to me. Like I don't know, I love turning wrenches and I love getting my hands dirty, and I find it clears the mind. You know, just doing hard work, man. That really clears my mind. As I said, I gave up drinking, so
Yeah.
I don't I don't have any habits like that anymore, except chocolate. Yeah, can't give up chocolate.
Yeah,
So
that
yeah, and I'm
that's
looking forward. We're just starting to get good weather here in Ontario, so I'm looking forward to getting back outside.
that's what I was gonna ask you too about the weather, because like I'm from Texas, everything's hot all year round over here, so I'm not used to that stuff. Um,
Yeah, no, we were like it was back. We're back in yeah, you're Fahrenheit. So yeah, we're just around like 36 degrees today, 35 degrees today.
oh wow.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
we're not used to that. That's way too cold for us.
yeah.
Let's see. Oh, so you said you won, was it top 100, or was that one called?
Yeah, so it's a top 100 Canada's most powerful women, and I won it in the skilled trades category. So obviously, there's 100 women from all
Hmm.
over Canada, right? But yeah, they started a skilled trades category I think about 5 or 6 years ago. So I was pretty excited to get nominated, and yeah, I actually won. So I had a big event, and it was just really cool to be recognized, and it's more for what you do for other women in the trade, like in
Okay.
your chosen category, right? So it was based on a lot of the mentoring work that I do for young women and going out to events and that type of thing.
Well, that's awesome. So
Yeah,
you're quite a roll with that and the HVAC tactical
that one
award
blew
over
me
there.
away, man. Holy cow! Like when Ben called me, I thought I was getting pranked. So yeah, I'm excited though next year to be able to go to the actual event. So
Well,
that's
you
going to be
have to,
amazing.
because yeah, you have to, because you have to present now.
Oh yeah, I'm totally going to be there. Yeah, yeah, I can't wait.
I was at this last one, and it was funny watching your little acceptance speech roll and everything. We loved it.
Yeah, I was trying to pretend I was there.
That was awesome.
So yeah, oh, I just saw it. So is it in Chicago next year or this year?
The next one's in Chicago.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I'm totally going to be in Chicago.
Well, you'll be used to that weather. I won't.
No,
I don't know if we'll see. It's very cold in Chicago.
that's the Windy City, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that.
Well, that's awesome. Congrats on both of those. You're doing amazing. I love the training and teaching that you're doing. That's not that easy to do. I know you said you worked your way into it, and you kind of, you started to like it, but I can imagine how hard that is. Like that's something that I would think is very difficult.
Yeah, you definitely have your moments, man, because they're not all winners at the end of the day, right? So, yeah, we all have those like super egos we deal with. I say like it's like a god complex we might have in this trade. So yeah, I've even got guys coming in that are still working like at Sport Check or something, and they're telling me, "Oh no, that's wrong. Like that's not how you do it." I'm like, "All right, enlighten me. Like, how do you do it?" So,
Oh, I guess you deal with that. I guess you deal with that everywhere, because we deal with that on Instagram, on YouTube.
right?
Somebody always has something to say. Oh, but yeah. And speaking of Instagram, like I've followed you for a very long time, and you were probably one of my first followers, honestly.
Oh, cool.
Back when I started mine, and I was like, she is amazing. I love the energy. And then seeing you work on that industrial stuff was so cool. So I know you're an inspiration to a lot of people, and you were part of that whole community that was always supportive. There's a few of you that I remember when I started. You guys were there already, and that's awesome.
That's awesome, man. So good to hear.
Let me see. Three phase. What is HVAC tactical? How does one
Oh,
not know about Ben? HVAC tactical is well, it started as a clothing brand, and now he's doing amazing things. He has an award show, which Brandi won Lady of the Trade, and he has a whole Grammy basically laid out for us with the red carpet and everything. It was awesome. I don't think you haven't been to one yet, right?
no, this is gonna be my first one this year.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
I'm
missed I
stoked.
missed I missed the Vegas one because my flight was late, and then
Yeah,
I went to the Atlanta one.
yeah. I think I missed Vegas because I think we were still in a no-fly zone, no-fly thing then too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think we were still on the tail end of COVID.
Jonathan, HVAC Tactical is expensive clothing. HVAC Tactical, we got HVAC Crew, we got a bunch of them that are
Yeah, I love all the
awesome.
HVAC swag.
That's all I wear now. Like right now, I'm wearing the HVAC Crew
I know.
shirt,
I got my HVAC tactical on.
and that's all I wear now is like HVAC shirts. Whether it's like one of these or like somebody that has merch out, I buy them all. So
Yeah, I know. One time my students asked me, they're like, "Is that some kind of club that you're in?" Because of the HVAC crew. I'm like, "Yeah, man, it's totally a club. You're gonna be part of it one day."
oh yeah. All right, Brandi. We're at an hour. I think I'm gonna wrap it up.
Awesome.
Is there any advice, tips that you want to close out with
No,
before we
I
get
just
off?
want to say the solution is an evolution. So I hope you guys all want to be a part of that with me. And thank you so much for the support and tuning in here with Adrian. This has been great. Thank you so much, everyone.
I appreciate you coming on, and for sure, if you ever want to come on again, we can go ahead and talk again.
Yeah,
And it was a pleasure having you. So
awesome.
I'm gonna say bye to everybody. Richie, Jonathan, Sam, Blogger. I appreciate all you guys for tuning in, and we will see you guys. I'm gonna hit the outro
Bye, guys.
and see ya.